Hi guys, welcome back to a new TechNet video. I'm Kieran and today I'm going to be doing an InDesign basics tutorial on how to set up an A3 document magazine. First things first, what we want to do is set up a new file or a new document. Go over to the file button on the top left hand side of the page, press that and it will bring up a new document window. This new document window will allow you to select a certain preset that you so desire. For us, we want to be picking the A3 document type. So you want to head over to Print, View All Presets, click that button and it will give you some more options. Click the A3 one, you know it's selected because it's highlighted in a blue box. Then over to the preset details, you want to give it a correct name or an identifiable name. For me, because I'm doing the tutorial, I'm going to call it InDesign Tutorial. From here, we can make sure that the orientation is correct. So we want to make sure it's portrait like so. We want to add our number of pages. So I'm going to add 4 pages to my document. I want the pages to be facing, which means they'll alternate and also create spreads, particularly if you're doing a double page feature. You then want to scroll down to margins and select the correct margin distance. For this document, I'm going to go with 14, just because I can. Make sure that's all correct. You can leave bleed and slug for the moment. They're more used for when you actually print this magazine. So if preview is not already selected, tick that preview button and then that will allow you to see what the document is going to look like when you hit create. Once you're happy with all of that, press create and you're ready to go. Okay, so this is what your InDesign workspace looks like. What we want to do is go up to the top right hand side of the page and make sure that it is ticked on Essentials. If it's not, then tick anything that's already ticked and click on Essentials to make sure it looks like how my screen does. What we want to do is go over to look at the pages first of all. So next to Properties, there's a Pages tab. Press on that and what you'll get is a bird's eye view of your entire document. So pages 1 through till 4 with a double page spread in the middle. If we press Ctrl-, we can keep doing that until we're zoomed out of our entire document. So as you can see, the pages in the middle where we can edit matches the pages on the right. Just a quick note, the A parent above these pages is the master pages. They're not too important at the moment, but what they're used for is if you want to put text or images or any shapes on those master pages, what will happen is all of those properties get applied to the rest of the document. But we don't want to use that at the moment, we just want to keep it like this. Now, I don't actually want any of the pages to have a spread in the middle. What I want is to bring it down to the end, so my spread is at the end of the document and not in the middle. Now what I could do for that is right click on any of these little white pages and select Allow Document Pages to Shuffle. Now what that will do is allow me to shuffle these pages around to where I get something that looks like this. So now my double spread is at the end instead of in the middle and I'm ready to start putting some content on there. Now that we've looked at the pages, I think it's time to go on to the layers. So yet again, up in the top right hand side of the screen, select these 2 squares that are sat on top of each other. This is the layers icon. A pop-out menu will come out to the left hand side. As you can see, I haven't got anything in the document, so there are no layers for me to add, but much like in Photoshop, this allows us to organize objects such as shapes and text boxes and images and give them different names. So if you double click on a layer, it will bring out a layer options. You can change the name to whatever you want it to be. But because I haven't got anything, I can't do that. Likewise, you can toggle the I button to make things appear and disappear when you're looking for certain objects. And you can also add layers at the bottom where this plus icon is. So this is really good for organizing different things that should be grouped together and making your life a lot easier when you're trying to shuffle things around, especially when you have quite a lot of content on the page. I'm going to draw your attention over to the tools panel on the left hand side of the screen. The most common tools are the selection tool, the type tool, the pen tool, the frame tool and the shape tool. The selection tool, when you press V or it's right at the top, you can drag and move objects around the page. You can also resize them. The type tool, just like Photoshop, allows you to type out text. The pen tool allows you to draw different shapes, and the rectangle frame tool allows you to draw out a certain sized shape that you can then fill with images or text later, and very similarly the rectangle tool allows you to draw shapes that you can then fill with colour. So if we zoom in using the Control+ key to the front page, or the first page, sorry, I'm going to draw out a shape using the pen tool. Now you can really choose and decide whatever shape you like. It all depends on what type of effect or what type of imagery you want to use, but using the pen tool allows me to draw any shape that I desire, and then I can add an image to it. So manually doing it, I'll go to File, then Place, and then I'll search where I've saved my images and double click on that, and then that will export my image, place my image, into the shape that I've selected. Now as you can see, it's zoomed in my image quite a bit, and that's not what I wanted. So I'm going to select the image, go over to the Properties tool, down to Frame Fitting, and select Fill Frame Proportionally. Now what this will do is resize my image to make it fit in the shape better than it did when it was placed. But I can also move this around by dragging the circle in the center of the image, just like so. I can move it about however I like and also reposition it. You have to be careful though when using that circle, because sometimes the image can go out of the bounds of the shape and you'll be left with spaces. But I quite like that for the time being. I think I'm going to add some effects now, so I'm going to go to Object, Effects, then down to Basic Feather. There are different effects that you can choose from here, but I think you should have a play around with ones and get your desired look. For the basic feather, I'm going to increase the feather width, what will sort of close in on my image. And if you can't see what your effects are doing, make sure to toggle the preview button so that you can see what's happening in real time. I quite like that, so I'm going to press OK. If I press W, I can preview the image without any of these margin lines and see what the image looks like on its own. So now that we've added our lovely images, or image in my case, I am going to add in some text. So using the Type tool, I'm going to draw out a box, and for the purpose of this tutorial I'm going to go over to Type and fill with placeholder text. The text at the moment is a little bit small and a little bit too much, so I'm going to select the things that I don't want and select the things that I do. Over in the Properties section on the right hand side of the page, I can choose the font weight, so whether it's bold, whether it's italic, anything like that, and I'm going to slightly increase the size till about 15. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more as well, just so we can see the text a bit better. So with the text tool, we can highlight text, we can remove parts, we can add in breaks for paragraphs, for example, like so. But what I've noticed with my text is I don't like the wavy effect that has happened because of the different lengths of the lines. So to sort that, I'm going to highlight all of my text, go over to the right again and select Justify, which is this icon here underneath paragraph. As you can see, it solved our problem by making a lovely straight line so that there's no waviness anymore. This is great for columns, for example, if you're working in columns on InDesign. But unfortunately, I also don't like the hyphens in this document. Press the three little dots underneath paragraph, which will bring down a further drop down menu. I then want to select hyphenate, or deselect hyphenate, sorry, which will then keep my paragraph justified, so a lovely straight line at the end of our sentences, but also remove any hyphens that I may have so that everything flows a lot nicer. So if I deselect that, press W again to see what it looks like, we've got a lovely straight line at the end of our text, and we've also removed all of the hyphens. Quick pause, I wanted to quickly mention something about utilizing columns. Columns are particularly useful in achieving that magazine style look and feel when you create your own. To do this, head over to the Layout tab at the top of the screen and then select Create Guides and choose the number of columns you wish to have. A good rule of thumb is to have either 2 or 3 columns, as going any higher might cause issues when adding your paragraphs in later. I'm going to choose 3 columns for my page. Select Preview to see what you're doing to your document. Increase or decrease your gutter size, which is the spacing between each column to get your desired look, and then hit OK once you are happy. I'm going to draw out a text box to fill the entirety of the first column and fill that with some text. Let's say I want to have the text continue over to the next column. Now you can either do this manually by drawing a text box next to it or paste your continued text. Or to do it more professionally, what you can do is paste your text into one column. Then, as you can see, there's a small red plus and an error message at the bottom of the screen. This means that you have overset text, which simply means your amount of text is bigger than the box's frame. Click the small red plus in the box and you'll see this unusual cursor pop up. Draw another box in the column on the right of it, and then you'll see your text flow from the first box into this one. Now you can freely type between each box and have the one column flow into the next, so it seamlessly transitions without you having to do it manually. So after sorting out all your images and text, I actually want to add a bit of color to my text, for example. So what I want to do is select all of my text. Now, working with swatches is really useful, because if you have a bunch of brand colors, for example, swatches allows you to keep them consistent and to always go back to them when you need them. So they're really handy and convenient. So what I mean by that, if I go and highlight all of the text like I've done, I go over to window at the top of the page, down to color, then across to swatches, and swatches appears on the left hand side. On the right hand side of the screen in a little menu like so. As you can see, there's a bunch of presets ones already, like blue, pink and the yellow. Select all of those and hit the bin button, which is the delete, and get rid of all of those. I want to add my own swatches, so to do that I will then press the plus button to add a new swatch. Double click on that new swatch that's added, and like we do with our layers, we give them a handy name. So I actually might go for the dark blue of my shirt, so I'm going to type in dark blue. Make sure you change your color mode to RGB, because what that will do is allow us to work with the hex codes and to pull different colors from our images that we might already have in the document. Go down to the eyedropper tool, drag and hold until you hover over the image that you want. As you can see, as I go around the document, like I pass over my lanyard, there's a bit of orange on my shirt, my skin's slightly pinkish, and my shirt is blue. It changes the color depending on what you're hovering over. So because I want the blue of the shirt, I'm going to hover over it and let go. That's the hex code of that image. We then want to save it, and as you can see in our swatches, we now have a dark blue one taken from my shirt. If I want to add another one, I do the same process. Double click, change it to purple or whatever name you want. Hold the eyedropper tool, hover over where you want to pick the color from, press OK, and now I've got the blue from my shirt and the purple from my lanyard. Something that's really cool in InDesign is actually the interaction between images and text. So if I want to interact this image above with the text below, I can actually use something called text wrapping. So what I want to do, for the purpose of this actually, I'm going to go over to Basic Feather and remove it for the time being, so I have a very simple hardline shape. Select my object and go over to the object and then clipping path options. Then what I want to do is select detect edges, and what that will do is find the edges around my shape. I can also mess around with this. Well, first you should preview, and then I can mess around with the threshold until I get a desired look. Now what it can actually do is outline the shape of a person or object, for example, or you can actually use the frame itself. So I'm going to restrict it to the frame, and hopefully that fills in quite nicely like so. That looks pretty good to me. Press OK. So now that I have that sorted, I can actually go over to the text wrap underneath the properties on the right hand side and select the text wrap bounding box. Now what will happen is if I move my text to anywhere near the image, as you can see, the text is trying to go around this image and not through it. which is really nice because then you can do some cool things with different shapes and different layouts of your magazine. However, it looks quite rubbish at the moment because everything is really squashed. But what I can do is actually click on the image again, go over to text wrap, hold Alt, and then click on the text wrap button again. And what that will do is allow me to actually alter the boundaries of the shape. Like so. Then I press OK, so you can actually increase the width around the shape so that the text box has almost like a certain boundary it can't enter. So once that's done and I'm happy with that, deselect everything. I'm going to press W again to preview, and it's quite nice that the text goes around this shape now. So that's how you use the text wrap tool. Now that we're happy with our document, we've used our swatches, we've used our text wrap tool, and we've added our effects to our images, we're happy and we're ready for it to export. What we do is we head on over to File, down to Export. That will bring up this export window. Make sure the title's correct and make sure the Save As type is Adobe PDF print. We don't want a PNG and we don't want a JPEG. Choose the area you want to save it and click on Save, like that. Then it will bring up an Export Adobe PDF window. Make sure it's set to high quality print. You want all of the pages selected. You want spreads selected, otherwise if it was on the single pages, that might break up your double page feature, which will ruin the way your PDF looks. So make sure it's set to spreads. Go down to compression and set all three of these options that I've just selected to 300. And that will make sure your images are really high quality, as if this was going to be printed. You can leave every other option here, and once you're happy that's all sorted, go down to export and it's all ready to go. Hi guys, thank you for watching this InDesign Basics tutorial. If you need any other help or any other learning or resources, please check out our other TechNet videos on the channel and you should find everything you need. Thank you guys.